Okay, hello guys, welcome to the J podcast. Before that, I will introduce our speaker. There's Abel and Amadeus, and today we're gonna watch some video first. Yeah.
You're watching a special Hot Indonesia with Sandrina, Millie, and me. Bahasa Indonesia, the language of Indonesia, is a beautiful language that keeps the world's biggest archipelago together. Among its supporters is a former Jakarta Post editor living back in England who hasn't stopped using or promoting it. English is considered the international language of business, but there are those who believe Indonesian could take its place as an alternative, or at least in the ASEAN region. Supporters point to its relatively easy pronunciation and structure and familiarity in other countries, including Malaysia and Australia. Bruce Iman is a former Indonesian resident, now living in Canterbury in the United Kingdom. He spent a total of 26 years here in Indonesia, most as a journalist. Bruce, welcome. Good to see you again. Now, while living here, you embraced the language and culture, kind of a role model for me. You continued to study Bahasa Indonesia there. What is the root of your affection?
Well, I think the root for me, Dalton, is the fact that Indonesian is kind of like the melting pot of so many different languages, right? So my father was South African. I could mention different words like in Indonesian, ember. My father knew it, right, from South African, from Dutch. So I think with Indonesian, you get to see so many different aspects of the world. I talk with my Portuguese friend. There's so many words, bonica, even the word tolol, which comes from Portuguese, garpu. I talk with people from different nations, so you can actually trace the history of Indonesia and also the world through Bahasa Indonesia. I think actually it's very similar to the cuisine of Indonesia. You see the different elements, and to me that's a beautiful thing. And in fact, coming back to England, I've taken 2 classes on Bahasa Indonesia that have kind of seeing different people from different countries who are interested in Bahasa Indonesia, and then also hearing the plan to make Bahasa Indonesia the language of communication for ASEAN, which I think is a brilliant thing. And actually something that Millie said last week was very interesting to me about the pride that Indonesians today have about their culture, right? Which is, for a long time, we thought that Indonesians kind of looked at Bahasa Indonesia or, Indonesian food, they don't like to promote it so much, right? They have a lot of pride when people take an interest in it. So for me, looking at it, like you said, 26 years, first time when I was 17 in Padang, when I was a high school exchange student, I love the fact that I could learn Bahasa Indonesia, that I could speak it, that if I went to Gorontalo, if I went to Sulawesi, if I went to, a small island like Rote in the eastern part of Indonesia, we could all communicate in the same language. And that to me is the beauty of it, that unity and diversity.
Okay. Sandrina, question for Bruce?
Bruce, in the olden days, the internationalization of a language is usually related to colonialism. The invasion and conquering of a colony gives birth to the use of the invader's language. This was how English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese, just to name a few, became the new language in the international community and became a communication tool used amongst different countries. Now, lately, this theory has been revised. Colonialism is no longer seen as the important variable, but it is the domestic economic scale and international trade strength of that country. This is why we've seen lately Mandarin has gained such popularity. So, in your opinion, Bruce, does Indonesia have the potential to become such a strong and important global economy that would widespread the use of Indonesian language, making Bahasa Indonesia one of the main languages used at least in Southeast Asia or even the world?
Oh, I certainly do, Sandrine. I mean, you look Indonesian, okay, you find it in Malaysia, of course, but Tagalog, it has many of the ako, sakit, many of the same words that we have, the basic words. And I think if you use ASEAN as the launching pad, certainly as a form of communication, Indonesian can be simple, but it's not simplistic, right? It's not going to overtake French or English as a language of diplomacy, but certainly in ASEAN, I think it should be. And I'm always interested in seeing the other students who are taking part in the Bahasa Indonesia classes that I take here from the Indonesian Embassy or from SOAS, from all over the world, interested in Indonesian, fascinated by Indonesian. And you're having a lot of standardization of Bahasa Indonesia in the last few years. And that's a brilliant thing, right? To make it a formal language that people can communicate in, right? And not just dismiss it as, oh, Bahasa Pasar, the language of the market.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm having a cup of Java, which is a slang which originated here. And one more point, I think Bahasa Indonesia is a lot easier to learn than Mandarin. I mean, that's a given. I think nobody will dispute that. Okay, Millie, question.
Okay, we're done watching the video. And the conclusion of the video that we already watched is we must be able to use good and correct Indonesian language anywhere and anytime because our language is already worldwide, yeah. And according to Amadeus, how is the development of our Indonesia today?
Okay, for me, so far our language is very global. That the proof is that there are several schools in Finland using our language as their curriculum.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Because I also heard the news, yeah. What do you think about
Yeah.
it, Abel?
I need your language is now global. Yes, it is us in foreign school and international space.
Okay, then if, for example, on Indonesian, how about the regional language of Abel?
Yes, many regional languages have now been forgotten, though in the entry for foreign language, which us eliminated regional language.
Oh, okay. What about you, Amadeus?
For me, the interest in regional language has diminished, especially now that office and school are required to master foreign language, not the local language.
Oh, yeah, that's correct. Is there a way out according to France, maybe, Abel?
Yes, for me before, maybe we can help by giving regional language workshop, and especially for your younger, that preferring culture is important. So the regional language still exists. If Indonesia its life is the main language that we just need to be encouraged to the study in more active way. Thank you.
What about you, Amadeus?
Okay, I'm agree with Abel that we can learn many language in the world, such as English or our bahasa daerah. But don't forget of our own language because we were born in a country full of diversity of language. We don't need to learn all of them, but we can encourage our children in their respective region to their local language.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, our two speakers today are really great. Thank you for the knowledge provided. I hope that young Indonesian can appreciate their language more and preserve it more. And
Yes,
thank you guys, and see you on the next Jai podcast. Bye bye.
I see you.
To